Many of you may like to watch a certain episode of a favorite TV program more than once, so tonight consider this a rerun. And if you haven't heard it before, well then I guess it's new to you. It had been almost 2 weeks since the stray dog had bitten the woman before she finally started seeing any symptoms. Fearing that it could be worse than she thought, she finally gave in and visited her doctor. Well, the doctor told her, "It looks like you waited too late. That dog had rabies, and now it looks as if it may be fatal. If I were you, I would put my final affairs in order right now." So immediately the woman took out a pen and paper and began writing furiously. She wrote and she wrote and she wrote. Finally the doctor said, "My, that sure is a long will that you're making out." She snorted angrily. "Will? What will? I'm making a list of all the people I'm going to bite." So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about anger. Hopefully none of us will ever be angered enough to make us want to bite people like a rabid dog. Then again, maybe we do. But perhaps at one time or another, anger does get the best of us. The first man to discover the destructive power of anger was Cain. When God accepted Abel and his offering and rejected the offering of Cain, he became very angry. He was angry at God and jealous of his brother. God warned Cain of the consequences of his anger in Genesis 4, verse 7. "You must master your anger, or it will master you." But Cain did not respond to God's warning. His jealousy turned into hatred, and the first man born into this world became a murderer because he did not control his anger. We all get angry from time to time, but we are encouraged to use our anger constructively, not destructively as Cain did. Anger is sometimes appropriate. There are certain things that we definitely need to get angry about. However, the wrong type of anger can lead to great danger, hatred, and even murder. Anger takes our eyes and hearts away from God and often prevents us from seeing our own faults. It is not necessarily a sin to be angry. Certainly God does not expect us to rejoice when people do wrong, but we must be angry at sin. God judges the righteous, and God is angry with the wicked every day. Psalm 7, verse 11. Paul writes of the indignation that the Corinthian brethren had concerning the sin which they had formerly been in. 2 Corinthians 7, verse 11. Jesus also was angry when he overturned the money changers' tables, and he cleansed the temple in Mark 11, verses 15 through 17. However, when we are angry, we want to make sure that our anger does not venture into sin, as Paul warned us in Ephesians 4, verse 26. So let us look at a few Bible principles tonight briefly that will help us control this righteous indignation. First, we should not be quick to anger. Many sins committed in the wake of anger are like a hot water geyser. They build up and spew out without any control. This is the kind of anger that leads to crimes of passion. It is the anger that causes us to say things that we will later regret. It causes us to strike out at others and does not help anyone. Anger of this caliber is sinful anger. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. Proverbs 15, verse 18. Second, when provoked, think before you become angry. Ask yourself a few simple questions. Is this a situation over which it is worth becoming angry? Are there any dire consequences that could arise? Am I angry because of this situation, or am I angry because something bad is happening in another part of my life, and it is affecting my judgment? Is my getting angry going to affect people in a negative way to hinder good relationships? Life can be frustrating, and often is. However, it just becomes more frustrating for more people when we unnecessarily become angry. James arranges it this way: "Wherefore, my beloved brethren, let every man be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath." James 1, verse 19. Third, when we do get angry, we must control ourselves. No problems have ever been solved by losing control. Loss of control builds problems. Although it is sometimes difficult, we should bring our anger into subjection and deal with it in a rational manner. When we become angry, step away from the situation. Allow yourself to cool down and come back and confront the problem in an adult-like fashion. Throwing a tantrum is childish and will only gain disrespect from those in front of whom the tantrum is thrown. Another thing we might do is think of a person that we know of who often loses their temper. It may be that in thinking this way, the way this person acts, we ourselves will see how ridiculous that behavior is and avoid loss of control of our own lives. 2, sometimes we must confront someone with whom we are angry. When we do, speak calmly and rationally. Keep body movements, especially your arms, to a minimum. Further, it is likely that the person with whom we are angry will become angry himself. When both parties are angry, then things are less productive and more time-consuming. Regulation, however, conserves time and increases productivity. Controlling our actions is the key. If our actions are not in control, then our thoughts are not in control. God demands that we bring into captivity every thought into the obedience of Christ, 2 Corinthians 10, verse 5. And finally, we must resolve our anger within the same day in which it is provoked. A sore left untreated will fester and fester until it becomes infected. It can then cause major complications with serious consequences. The smallest cut that is left untreated can end up as gangrene. Many people have lost limbs and lives because of such. Anger is much the same way. If we allow it to continue, it will grow and fester, and our anger will become bitterness. Soon it is not simply a small mistake we made which irritates us, but the whole world. Our bitterness then becomes cynicism, and we begin to see deceit and dishonesty in every situation. We question people's motives without reason. Soon we give up on ourselves, and in our despair we can destroy our faith in God. Such a small beginning can have such drastic consequences if we do not confront and resolve our anger quickly. The second half of Ephesians 4, verse 26 says, "Let not the sun go down upon your wrath." We only hurt ourselves when we let anger foster within us. Anger is one of the most intense emotions that God has given to us. However, we can use anger for a good purpose. Let us resolve tonight to, number 1, not to become angry hastily. 2nd, to think before we become angry. Next, to control our anger should we become angry. And lastly, to resolve our anger before the end of the day. I certainly have not mastered anger. Nevertheless, I still want to learn God's principles on the subject, for on any subject He has given unto us all things that pertain unto life and godliness, through the knowledge of Him that is called us to glory and virtue, 2 Peter 1, verse 3. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice, and be ye kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, has forgiven you. Ephesians 4, verses 31 and 32. If you have a need to come forward tonight and give your life for Christ, you have that opportunity here tonight. By hearing Romans 10, verse 17, believing Mark 16:16, repenting Acts 2:38, confessing Matthew 10, verse 32, being baptized Acts 2:38, and finally by living faithfully Revelations 2, verse 10. If we do all this, we can be assured of the hope of salvation. Likewise, if you have a need to come forward and ask for forgiveness for any wrongs that you have committed in your life and desire the prayers of the church, you also have that opportunity here tonight.